Hello and welcome to another episode of South Asia Focus. I'm your host Swati Kundra. Today we begin the show with Afghanistan, where the security situation continues to deteriorate as the Taliban and Islamic State are on a killing spree. In separate incidents, over 24 civilians have been killed and many more injured. We have a report.
Six Afghans working for the Red Cross have been killed by suspected Islamic State gunmen in the Kush-Tepa area of Jawzjan province. Two others are unaccounted for and feared abducted by IS. The International Committee for the Red Cross, which has had an interrupted presence in Afghanistan for 30 years, said it was putting its work in the country on temporary hold.
It was a region we knew very well. It's a really very experienced colleagues, and then knowing that they've been killed, attacked directly, is the worst possible news. And of course, the shock is first to realize what it means for our actions in Afghanistan, what it means for Afghan, for the family, for the colleagues. I'm just still can't believe that people will attack Red Cross and ICSC colleagues.
In another incident, on February 7, at least 20 people were killed in a bomb blast outside the Supreme Court in capital Kabul. As many as 40 injured people were taken to city hospitals. The blast comes a month after at least 36 people were killed and dozens wounded in two suicide bombings near the Afghan parliament in Kabul. The Taliban claimed responsibility for those January 10 attacks. A United Nations report says that civilian casualties in Afghanistan rose to new highs in 2016, driven by more Islamic State attacks. A total of 3,498 civilians were killed in the conflict and 7,920 were wounded in 2016, a combined increase of 3% over the previous year.
The spike in civilian casualties in Afghanistan is a cause of concern. We are now joined by Ajay Sahani, an expert on counter-terrorism, to know the real picture of rising violence in Afghanistan. Mr. Sahani, the Islamic State is involved in many incidents in Afghanistan. Is this a threat for the Afghan administration?
You see, the Afghanistan situation, what you have is not really direct attacks by the ISIS. But groups that were part of the Taliban at one point of time, or the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, banding together under the banner of the Islamic State. What we are seeing is not any radical escalation of violence, any radical transformation of violence, but the breaking away of dissatisfied or discontented elements within the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan leadership and cadres and the Taliban leadership and cadres, who are now engaging in the same activities that they were earlier involved in under the flag of the Islamic State. So while this may cause some concern, particularly in the West, where there is I think extraordinary hysteria regarding anything connected with the Islamic State, this does not constitute any dramatic shift in the situation in Afghanistan.
Will Afghan security agencies and foreign troops be able to tackle the challenge posed by the Islamic State and the Taliban?
As I said, the danger in Afghanistan or the threat in Afghanistan arises principally out of the Taliban, backed by the Pakistani state. Some elements have chosen to fly the flag of Islamic State. They have broken away from their parent organizations and now continue to engage in precisely the same pattern of activities that they were engaged in before, except that they have changed their flag. So I don't think any new challenge has come up for the Afghanistan state or for the its allied supporters. The quantum of the threat remains the same. It is very significant. The Taliban has been severely disruptive, dominates many of the districts in Afghanistan, and the same thing still continues. In fact, if anything, I would suggest that the introduction of the Islamic State in this case actually weakens the Taliban. What has happened is elements from the Taliban have broken away. The Taliban itself is fighting those elements. So there is a lot of fratricidal conflict, which is an advantage to the state.
Afghanistan on several occasions has accused Pakistan of harboring terrorists. Do you find Islamabad's involvement in rise of violence in Afghanistan?
Pakistan has been and remains the principal problem for South Asia and particularly for Afghanistan. If you take Pakistan out of the equation, there would be no Taliban, there would be no insurgency in Afghanistan. There appears to be no intention on the part of the Pakistani state to dilute its support to the Taliban as yet. The only way this is going to happen is if extraordinary international pressure, particularly American pressure, is exerted on Pakistan. This will not be diplomatic pressure. This has to be kinetic, it has to be economic, it has to be financial, it has to be something that would threaten the existence of the Pakistani state.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sahani. Moving on to Bangladesh, where a large number of Rohingya Muslims living as refugees are seeking help to enable them to access healthcare, education and other basic needs. Though they are getting support from some NGOs, many of them wish to return to Myanmar. We have a report.
At a makeshift camp in Cox's Bazar, a child leads several others in reciting the English alphabet. Lessons in Bengali and English are guided by adult Rohingya Muslims, some of whom have been refugees for 2 to 3 years, while others are a part of a recent wave of people fleeing Myanmar. But residents of the camp said they need further education for their children and urged the United Nations and the Bangladesh government to provide support.
আহ্বান রইল ইন্টারন্যাশনাল এবং বাংলাদেশ সরকারকে শরণার্থী হিসেবে তো পড়ালেখা করা যায় আমরা বিভিন্ন দেশে দেখতে পারি যে শরণার্থীর পরিচয় নিয়ে পড়ালেখা করার সুযোগ থাকে যদি আমি আজকে পড়ালেখা করতে পারি তাহলে দেখবেন আমরা পৃথিবীর যেখানে যাই না কেন একটা মানব সম্পদ হিসেবে সেই দেশে আমরা অর্থনীতিতে সামাজিক জীবনে রাজনৈতিক জীবনে আমরা ভূমিকা পালন করতে পারি
Nearly 69,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled to Bangladesh since Myanmar security forces responded to attacks on border outposts 4 months ago. The recent wave of refugees has joined more than 200,000 Rohingya already living in official and makeshift camps, straining resources in one of Asia's poorest regions. Many of the refugees wish to return to Myanmar and seek help from the international community.
বাংলাদেশের মধ্যে দীর্ঘদিন তাকিতে না চায় আর দেশের মধ্যে আরা ফিরে যায় বেল্লা বলিয়ারে চায় কিন্তু আর যে বার্মাতন সিটিজেনশিপ যে একটা আর অধিকার ইয়ান যে বঞ্চিত করছে ইয়ানরে যাতে আন্তর্জাতিকভাবে ফোর্স ক্রিয়েট করিয়ারে যাতে আর সিটিজেনশিপ যাতে রিএস্টাবলিশ করে বার্মার মধ্যে ইয়ানলে আর রোহিঙ্গাওয়ালার দাবি এই দাবিগানোর পক্ষে ইউএনরে আরও দাবি এস্টাবলিশ হওয়া পর্যন্ত হাজ করিবল্লা বলি আর রিকোয়েস্ট অনুরোধ করির সাথে সাথে আরা যতদিন এই বাংলাদেশের মধ্যে থাকি এই মানুষ হিসেবে যাতে আরা বাংলাদেশের মধ্যে বসবাস করি পারি ইয়ানোর ব্যবস্থা করি বললা বলি আরা সমস্ত রোহিঙ্গা হলে এই অনুরোধন করির যাতে আর যথাযথ থাকার ব্যবস্থা যথাযথ খাদ্যর ব্যবস্থা যথাযথ চিকিৎসার ব্যবস্থা যতদিন থাকি মানুষ হিসাবে যাতে আরা শিক্ষিতজ্ঞ জাতি হিসাবে গড়ে উঠি পারি ইয়ানল্লা বলি যাতে আর শিক্ষার উন্নয়নল্লা হাজ করে আন্তর্জাতিক কমিউনিটি ইয়ানল্লাহ অনুরোধ জানের
Rohingyas have faced discrimination in Myanmar for generations. They are not classified as a distinct group under citizenship laws and are regarded instead as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, entitled only to limited rights. A UN investigation found that Burmese security forces and police committed mass killings, gang rapes, and burned down entire villages in northern Rakhine province, where the Rohingyas are in majority.
Myanmar, predominantly a Buddhist country, has almost denied all allegations. Now we talk about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where the anti-Pakistan sentiments are mounting high among the locals. The people in this region lack basic facilities and they often fall victim to atrocities committed on them by the army and militants. We have a report.
Activists and political leaders of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir held a protest rally in Rawalpindi and chanted slogans against Pakistan Army for allegedly supporting extremists and terrorists in their territory. The protesters accused Islamabad of sheltering terrorists in POK who are misleading the youth towards jihad or holy war. The event was organized by the National Action Front, a coalition of several nationalist parties from POK, including the United Kashmir People's National Party. They demanded the withdrawal of National Action Plan and alleged it is being used against nationalist and political leaders in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan by the Pakistan Army.
ये लोगों को मिलिटेंसी छोड़ने नहीं देते पाकिस्तानी और दावे करते हैं कि जनाब हम वो लड़ रहे हैं टेररिज्म के खिलाफ। तो वो कौन सा टेररिज्म है? पहले पाकिस्तानियों से पूछा जाना चाहिए, नवाज शरीफ से पूछा जाना चाहिए कि किस टेररिज्म के खिलाफ लड़ रहे हैं। आप फ़ज़ाइया भी इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आप हेलीकॉप्टर गनशिप भी इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आप टैंक भी इस्तेमाल करते हैं। लोगों की ज़मीनें जो है वो आपने तबाह बर्बाद कर दी और पूछने वाला कोई नहीं है।
In Islamabad, human rights defenders and political activists from several parties have expressed concern over the deteriorating human rights situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Speaking at an event titled Right to Self-Determination of Jammu and Kashmir People and Freedom of Expression at the Islamabad Press Club, they highlighted several issues including a demand to lift the ban on student unions and the right to freedom of speech and expression.
को अपने बिहाफ पे बात करने की इजाज़त होनी चाहिए और बिल्कुल आपने दुरुस्त कहा कि सबसे पहले तो यही है कि जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर कश्मीर की स्टैंडिंग कमेटी है उसके अंदर कश्मीरियों को ही बैठना चाहिए और इस वक्त जो कश्मीर इस साइड पे है उसकी गवर्नेंस जो है वो कश्मीरियों के पास होनी चाहिए। ये जो एहसास है कि कश्मीरियों के लिए आज़ाद कश्मीर का कि बेसिकली तो इस्लामाबाद से उन पर हुकूमत हो रही है।
Political activists raised the issue of human rights violations in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan and accused the military for muzzling dissenting voices in nationalist parties and groups, non-governmental organizations and media.
Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan are part of an erstwhile princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. The region was forcefully occupied by Pakistan in 1947. Moving on, exiled former Maldives President Mohamed Nasheed says he hopes to return to his country and run for the 2018 presidential elections. The 49-year-old leader, who faces jail in Maldives for his 2015 conviction on terror-related charges, now lives in exile in London. We have a report.
Former Maldives President Mohamed Nasheed, who was recently in Sri Lanka, met members of his Maldivian Democratic Party in capital Colombo. Later talking to reporters, the exiled leader said he was hopeful of running against President Abdullah Yameen in the 2018 presidential elections.
I hope to win the Maldivian Democratic Party's ticket as the party's candidate of choice for the 2018 Maldives presidential elections. In his fear to contest me, if President Yameen bars me from contesting the elections, then of course his presidency will lack the necessary legitimacy.
Nasheed was sentenced to 13 years in prison in 2015 on terrorism charges that his supporters said were politically motivated under the government of his successor, President Abdullah Yameen. It won't be easy for Nasheed to return to Maldives and contest elections. Since 2015, Maldives President Abdullah Yameen has been prosecuting his political opponents and other leaders in the country. In June 2016, a former Vice President, Ahmed Adib, was convicted on charges of trying to assassinate the president and sentenced to 15 years in prison.
So anyone who might contest President Yameen is in jail. So we know that it would be difficult for us to field a candidate. We understand. And we also know that the political space, the space available for peaceful political activity is closing.
The Maldives constitution states that anyone who has been sentenced to more than 12 months in a criminal case cannot run for president within 3 years of his release or unless he has been pardoned.
The present government in Maldives is being accused of money laundering and its failure to act against terrorism. Now we talk about the burgeoning Hindi film industry, popularly known as Bollywood. Out of over 1,000 Hindi films produced annually, many are high-budget films that usually register a hit at the box office. As many people in India have access to the medium of cinema, earnings of films have skyrocketed. Take a look.
हर खिलाड़ी की तरह मेरा भी सपना था.
Dangal, a film starring Amir Khan in the lead, is a biopic on female pugilists from a conservative family of Haryana.
देश के लिए गोल्ड जीतेगा हमारा बेटा.
Released in December 2016 at over 5,000 screens worldwide, the film has grossed $110 million so far. Dangal has emerged as the all-time highest opening weekend grosser, as well as all-time highest grosser at the Australia and North American box offices. Not surprisingly, many Hindi films are doing big business at the box office worldwide. Bajrangi Bhaijaan, PK, Sultan, Rais and Kabil, countless number of films are joining Bollywood's 100 crore club. India's robust economy, which has grown at a modest pace in the last decade, has much to take credit as theatres are witnessing a greater number of footfall.
To speak more on how Bollywood has grown at such a pace, we are now joined by Mumbai-based film critic Mayank Shekhar. Mr. Mayank, many Hindi films are joining the 100 crore club, which makes Bollywood a vibrant industry. How do you see its success?
Well, I think at one level, of course, it's success in the sense that the number is huge. It's 100 crore. 100 crore sounds like a pretty vast enough sum for any industry. But I think more importantly, if you see it in the context of the population we're talking about, given that we're dealing with about a billion people, what you are getting is actually not even the surface of what Bollywood can actually achieve in terms of numbers. Let's say the average price of a ticket being, say, 100 rupees, right? So if that's the case, only 1 crore people actually went to the theatre to watch a film that we consider the biggest hit ever because it's apparently in the 100 crore club. 1 crore in a population of around much over 100 crore is a pretty small number. And what are the rest of the people doing for entertainment in any case? So of course, at the one level, in the context of the huge population, it's not big. But at another level, in terms of pure money in itself, it's large enough to sustain the industry for sure.
Can we say that the rising popularity of Hindi films overseas contributes majorly to their success?
Well, yes, I think there is a huge non-resident Indian diaspora across the world, especially in the Western world and the Middle East, and those movies get released in those markets as well. They're very well loved, much watched, of course, and that brings in a certain huge chunk purely because one, the ticket rates are much higher, say in the United States or the UK or the Middle East for that matter, Dubai for instance. So each person is paying far more to watch that particular film. So by virtue of which the percentage becomes larger, even if the number of people may be fewer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayank. Now we take you to Nepal, where the locals prepare molasses, a byproduct obtained after refining sugarcane into sugar. This dietary supplement is in high demand during winters because of its health benefits. Take a look.
Krishna Maharjan is busy making molasses in the front yard of his house in Batan, near Kathmandu city. He, along with his family, is engaged in the business of making and selling of molasses for over many decades now. Krishna is able to sell 50,000 kilograms of molasses during the season. It reduces to almost half during off-season. Molasses is prepared by cutting, crushing and mashing the sugar cane, extracting the juice and then boiling to concentrate the same. Many families consume molasses as part of family culture as it contains health benefits. Unlike highly refined sugars, it contains significant amounts of vitamin P and minerals including calcium, magnesium and iron. It helps in relief from stress, enlarged prostate, cancer, diabetes and obesity.
And the molasses has lots of beneficial effect. It has a low glycemic index. It can be used even in diabetic patient, but should be used in low amount. And it can, in our country, it is most commonly and widely used in case of postpartum women for the benefit of energy and to get the increased temperature as well.
During Masankredi festival, people consume chaku, a sweet made from hardened molasses.
Molasses is favored in traditional North American recipes such as Boston baked beans and also goes into the making of rich fruit cakes, gingerbread and treacle toffee. Now let's take you to India, the land of vivid culture and diversity, where the annual fair of Suraj Kund Mela is taking place. This year, the International Crafts Fair has witnessed a footfall of over 1 million with the participation of 20 countries. Take a look.
Each year, several events attract numerous people around the world to this incredible land. One such annual event is Suraj Kund Mela, which strives to showcase the richness of handicrafts, handlooms and traditions of India. The Suraj Kund Craft Mela was upgraded to an international level in 2013, and this year, more than 20 countries participated in the fair. And with that amelioration, various SAARC, South Asian and European countries participate in the Mela each year. From Afghanistan, Ishaq has bought Afghani carpets. He has been a regular at the Suraj Kund Mela for the past 4 years and loves to do business in India.
You know, we go all the world and different cities of India. We put exhibition like trade fair. That's a huge exhibition in all over India. But there is a business. We do a lot of business, good, and a lot of different people. You know. But this Mela there is one thing exactly different than others, because we come here as a guest. India government, they invite us here, all accommodation here, hotels and staying for us, and so much respect we got here, which we never seen in all life. You know, like stalls are free. We bring the stocks from Afghanistan.
With over 1,000 stalls, the popular fair has witnessed over 1 million footfalls this year, including thousands of foreigners. Several countries like Egypt, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and South Africa have put up their stalls and earned a good business. Sri Lanka has been participating in the mega fair for a very long time. It's been 7 years since Sri Lankan craftsmen have been coming here and displaying their beautiful arts and crafts.
Suraj Kund Craft Mela is the biggest craft mela in the India as well as the world, I think, because there are a lot of stalls and a lot of craftsmen here. That's why Sri Lanka also came to here. This is the 7th Shai. The Suraj Kund Craft Authority invited to the Sri Lanka to participate this one. There are 11 craftsmen participate for this Mela this year.
Manik Man, a specialized artist in Nepali and Tibetan metal craft, has come to the Mela representing Nepal with a number of designed metal ornaments, traditional jewelry, as well as winter products such as shawls and mufflers. Manik is participating in the Mela for the very first time and says he is not here to earn but to showcase the vibrant craft of his country.
ये मेला मुझको बहुत अच्छा लगा, क्योंकि इस मेला में इंडिया का संस्कृति देखने पाते हैं और कला देखने चाहता हूँ, इसलिए कि मैं एक नेपाल का कलाकार हूँ, हैंडीक्राफ्ट कलाकार हूँ, इसलिए यहाँ आकर मैं बहुत खुश हुआ.
The Suraj Kund Mela has always been one of the major cultural attractions, displaying the richness of Indian as well as foreign culture.
With that colorful note, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, take care and goodbye.